But here's what strikes me the most. The commissioner of the Pac-12, how did you not get everybody on the same page? This right here alone goes to prove exactly what I thought about the Pac-12 in the past couple of years. Wow. Wow, we got some groundbreaking news to talk about. Not the video I intend on and plan on making today. We'll get to that video later tonight, probably more likely, but we gotta talk about this. Every single time we've talked about the Pac-12 in the past 3, 4, 5 days, I'm like, yep, that's gonna be the last video. We'll never talk about them again, and well, here we are. The next day after I say that, or I think that, we talk about them. It's just because so much news has came out on this situation, and it's definitely intrigued me, and I know it's intriguing you guys. And oh yeah, by the way, we ain't doing no intro, none of that. We ain't got time for that, baby. We're jumping straight into it. If you like the content, it's relatively simple. We got a great, outstanding college football community on this channel that we're building every single day, and we love for you to be a part of it. If you don't want to be a part of it, that's cool too. With that being said, we're jumping straight into it because I got a busy day on my hands. I got some other stuff I need to work on, so let's check it out. Earlier this morning, news came out, according to the sources, that the Pac-12, they were divided from the start, and they weren't even committed to staying together. And it also goes back to this. We've been talking about this on the channel for the past couple of years. I've told you guys the Pac-12, it's a dead conference. I didn't think it was done a couple of years ago, but at the time I stated multiple times it was dead. And then last year's when I really started to state that I believed the Pac-12 was going to have a big fallout. And it's a similar situation with the ACC, guys. The ACC, give it time, it's going to do the exact same thing the Pac-12 just did. That's a different conversation for a different day, but let me show you this tweet. This is from one of our very reliable sources on the channel, Brett McMurphy. Today is Monday, but following last Tuesday's meeting with the commissioner, George, I don't even know how to say his last name, not going to try, a Pac-12 president contacted a Big 12 president and asked if the Big 12 could, quote unquote, take all 9 of us, and check this out, except for Oregon State and Washington State. Here's my question. Is that not insane to y'all? After a meeting, a Pac-12 president reached out to a Big 12 president and said, hey, do y'all have room for all 9 of us except for a couple of teams we don't personally like? And I don't understand why this certain president, we don't know who it is, but a certain president didn't want Oregon State and Washington State to join. My only assumption could be he's thinking, and this is the only logical assumption, is that Washington State and Oregon State, they hold them back. But at the end of the day, if you know anything about college football, you know Washington State, they pull in a ton of views. There's a lot of Washington State fans out there. And speaking of Washington State, don't they have some record streak going on College Game Day where there's always that one dude showing up with the flag? I know that's random, but that just came to my mind. But the point is, Washington State, at least in my humble opinion, was not holding back the Pac-12, so I don't understand why this certain president didn't want Washington State to be included. I can understand the Oregon State one because, let's be real, is there even Oregon State fans out there? I don't know. I'm sure there is, but you get what I'm trying to say. This is a big deal, but check out this reply because it's got a lot of people talking. It had to be Arizona. Oregon and Washington were negotiating with the Big Ten by that time. Stanford and Cal were left out of the teams that did move. Arizona State and Utah reluctantly joined the Big 12. That leaves only Arizona out of the remaining Pac-12 schools if Washington State and Oregon State were going to be left out. Colorado was already in the Big 12, so they would have no need to make the call. To make a long story short, this person saying, yeah, this had to be the president of Arizona. That doesn't even matter. Regardless of who made this phone call to the Big 12, here's what really matters, and it's the main reason I'm making this video and reporting on this. This right here alone goes to prove exactly what I thought about the Pac-12 in the past couple of years. There was no unity in the conference whatsoever. None, zip, zada, zero. Most of these teams, I'm not going to say all of them, but I'd say most of the teams in the Pac-12, they didn't care about the Pac-12. They're just looking out for their best interests. And I'm not going to lie. I'm not even faulting the universities for thinking that way, because in this life, sometimes you gotta be that way. I'm not saying you gotta have bad morals and integrity, because no, I don't believe that, but it's a dog-eat-dog-eat world. And when it comes to business, and by the way, for those of you who don't know this, college is the #1 business in the world. Just look at all the student loans, debts, and all that. I don't want to go too far into detail, but college is the best business out there. So yeah, it doesn't get too much more cutthroat and business savvy than college. College is all about money, 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 just like Mr. Krabs. Money, 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 money. That's all I think about. And I don't want to dive down this rabbit hole, but it's really a dang shame that they even charge students at universities to pay for parking. I don't want to go on a long rant about how all these universities charge these students for just meaningless bull crap that they shouldn't even have to pay for. But the point is, colleges, they want money. It doesn't matter if it's from parking, it doesn't matter if it's for books, fees, tuition, whatever, they want it all. And it's the same principle when it comes to these TV deals. And it's not just the Pac-12 universities, it's all the universities universities in every conference. But, and I have a really big but, you guys know this, here's what makes it different with the Pac-12. I'll break this down for you. This is the difference from the Pac-12 and I'll say the Big Ten and the SEC. As an SEC fan and a person from the Southeast, born and raised, I've lived here my entire life. I lived in Alabama, also lived in Florida for a brief stint. There's a certain pride about playing in the SEC. And the universities, although they are money hungry, they still have some morals and integrity when it comes to the conference. The University of Alabama has a great deal of respect for teams like Tennessee, LSU, Auburn, just all the SEC schools. And the reason for that is because iron sharpens iron. The University of Alabama understands the better that Georgia is and the more championships they win, that's just going to help Alabama in the long run as well, and it's going to help the entire conference. And I know I give the Big Ten a hard time, but man, oh man, do I respect them so much for how much they love their football like the SEC. I also respect the Big Ten so much because they value one another. It's the same thing with Alabama and Georgia with Michigan and Ohio State. Iron sharpens iron. My point is, and where I'm trying to go with this, I don't think teams in the Big Ten and the SEC would snake over other teams in their own conference just to make a tad bit more money somewhere else. Whereas the Pac-12, it's felt like a free-for-all the past 3 to 4 years. When you think of the Pac-12, ask anybody on the West Coast, you don't get that sense of, oh yeah, we're a part of the Pac-12, we're proud to be a part of it. No, it's if you're a USC fan, you go for USC and that's it. If you're an Oregon fan, you go for Oregon and that's it. Whereas a lot of people in the Southeast, they root for the SEC teams when they're playing other non-conference opponents. And here's a harsh reality if you really want to dive into this. USC carried the Pac-12 for years when they had Pete Carroll. When they had Reggie Bush and they was winning these championships and Heismans, it was must-see TV. And it all goes back to this, guys. These Pac-12 schools, they've been trying to lead the conference for a while now. Oregon and Washington, they've been trying to lead the past couple of years, and all the other teams, they've definitely been seeking out some other options. But here's what strikes me the most. The commissioner of the Pac-12, how did you not get everybody on the same page? It's crazy, man, because the current Pac-12 last year wasn't even the worst Power 5 conference. They finally got up into like the top 4, top 3. And the fact the commissioner, I'm going to put the blame on him, the fact the commissioner couldn't get everybody on the same page, terrible job. That's who you really got to point the blame at, the commissioner. I want to read off this comment, though, because you guys always got some great opinions and perspectives. It's crazy how this started with OU and Texas moving to the SEC. Honestly, wouldn't be surprised if eventually it ends up with the SEC, Big Ten, and Big 12. I've heard FSU wants to leave the ACC, which they do, by the way, and imagine if FSU goes, so does Clemson. Those two in Miami just fit the SEC perfectly. Add in our team and you have 4 semi-conferences in the SEC. It would probably split the remaining teams into the other conferences. This is the start of a 3-conference playoff era. Interesting. And he's right at the beginning of that statement. It is crazy to think that all of this started because of the one domino effect with Oklahoma and Texas. To go along with that, I've also seen a fair share of you guys on Twitter at me, send me stuff on Instagram and also in the YouTube comment section say, yo, Matt, I hate this. What about traditions? It ruins the game. What about the student athletes? They're going to have to travel from the West Coast to the East Coast and all that nice stuff. And trust me, I get it. I get it 100%. A lot of people out here don't like change. And I don't know where I saw this. I think it was on Twitter. It stated something like 41 or 42% of people, where they grow up, that zip code, that area code, it never changes their entire life, which means they grow up in a place, they grow up in one city, and they stay there the rest of their life. 40% of the people, which tells you almost dang near half the people out here, they don't care for change. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just saying that they're content with where they're at. And that's how people are. People like being uncomfortable, but in this life to grow, you got to learn how to be comfortable being uncomfortable. You're never going to grow in your comfort zone. It's the same thing with girls. Dude, do you know how many girls I dated and just had, things with here and there and just relationships I've had where we'll go out to a very nice restaurant. You know what they order? Chicken fingers. A lot of girls are that way, but it's just an example of how people, they're comfortable. They don't want to try new things because they know they like chicken fingers. And that's why this is all so controversial, because I think those same people, the 40% of people that grew up in their hometown and still live there, they don't like this. They like being comfortable. On the flip side, I think the other 60% of people that have moved around a little bit in their life, they've experienced some things. They've went on some crazy vacations or trips, they like this, and I'm in that boat. I can't speak for you. I can only speak for myself. I like change. I welcome it in. But for me, though, it's not even so much change. It's just I like competition. I'm tired of seeing Ohio State and Michigan having 2 tough games a year. I'm sick and tired of it. I want to see Ohio State and Michigan have 6, 7, 8 tough games a year. So from that standpoint, I don't understand how you couldn't like it. I guess you enjoy watching Ohio State blow out 9 out of the 12 teams they play. If that's your cup of tea, cool. It's the same thing with the Alabama-Tennessee game. Yeah, it hurt me watching us finally lose to Tennessee, but man, oh man, was that a game. I'd much rather watch a game like that than a blowout. That's just me. Let me know your thoughts down below. But